The spaceship moved slowly through the silent part of the galaxy. It was old and damaged but still working. Inside it was dark, cold, empty. Only the soft sound of machines filled the air. Captain Riel stood near the large window. He looked at the broken space station in front of him. It floated alone near a dying star. No signals, no life signs, but something felt wrong. Something felt alive. He turned to his team and gave the order. Check the station. Find out what happened here. For people entered the station. Their boots made soft metal sounds on the floor. The walls were burned. Screens broken. Signs of old battle were everywhere. But no bodies. No blood. Only silence. Private Kira opened a metal door. Behind it was a dark hallway. At the end of the hallway, there was a room filled with strange machines. In the middle of the room was a glass pod. It was glowing faint blue. Sergeant Dane moved closer. His hands shook slightly. He looked inside the pod. There was a girl inside. She looked around 20. Her skin pale, hair long and white. She wore a strange suit. Her eyes were closed, but her face looked peaceful. Commander Riel spoke into his radio. We found something. It's a stasis pod, and it's still active. The crew started scanning the pod. It was alien technology. Old, unknown, but still working after all these years. Dr. Lin joined them. She looked at the readings. Heartbeat slow, body cold, but alive. This is not human. This is not from our system. But she is alive. No one spoke for a moment. The air felt heavy, as if the room was holding its breath. Dr. Lin touched the glass. The girl inside moved. Just a little. Her fingers twitched. Did you see that? She moved. She is waking up. Captain Riel ordered the pod to be brought to the ship. Carefully. No damage. Keep scanning her vitals. The crew returned to the ship. They placed the pod in the medical room. Machines beeped softly. Lights blinked slowly. Dr. Lin sat next to the pod all night. She kept watching the girl, reading the scans, trying to understand. Who is she? Why was she left here? Why is she alone? As the star outside burned red, the girl's eyes opened. They were deep violet, glowing slightly, full of confusion, full of fear. Dr. Lin leaned closer. Can you hear me? Do you understand me? The girl blinked. She tried to move, but her body was weak. She looked around slowly. Her lips moved, but no sound came out. Dr. Lin turned on a translator. Say anything. Just a word. The girl tried again. Her voice was soft, dry, broken. Why did you wake me? Dr. Lin was quiet. She didn't know what to say. The girl looked away. Her eyes filled with something strange. Not anger, not sadness. Something deeper. Dr. Lin asked again. What is your name? Where are you from? The girl closed her eyes. Memories returned slowly. She remembered cold rooms, long nights, silence, pain. My name. I had one. I think it was Alia. Dr. Lin wrote that down. Alia. An alien name. Soft. Beautiful. Why were you in stasis? Why was the station empty? Alia looked at the ceiling. Her voice was almost a whisper. They were afraid of me. My own people. They locked me away. Because I felt something I was not supposed to feel. Dr. Lin did not understand. What did you feel? What was so dangerous? Alia looked at her. Eyes wet. Voice shaking. Warmth. I felt warmth. Kindness. Touch. And that was not allowed. Dr. Lin sat back. She didn't know how to respond. Alia continued. No one touched me for years. They stopped talking to me. They left me in the dark. I forgot what a voice sounded like. I forgot what a heartbeat felt like. I forgot who I was. The room was silent again. Only the machines spoke now. Soft beeps. Slow rhythm. Captain Riel came in. He looked at Alia with cold eyes. What do we do with her? She is alien. She could be dangerous. Dr. Lin stood in front of Alia. She's not a weapon. She's just a girl. She needs help. Captain Riel didn't answer. He walked away, his steps heavy, thoughts even heavier. Alia looked at Dr. Lin. You are the first person to talk to me. In a very long time. Dr. Lin smiled. A small smile. Warm. Real. You are safe now. We will not leave you again. And for the first time, after so many cold years, Alia closed her eyes and slept. Not because of the stasis, but because she felt something new. Hope. Before the light. Before the sound. Before the voice of the human doctor. There was only one thing in her mind. Cold. It lived inside her bones. It grew there. It stayed for years. Alia floated inside the stasis pod. Eyes closed. Body frozen. Heart silent. But the mind was never truly asleep. She remembered pieces. Not in order. Not clearly. Just broken shards of a life she no longer owned. A hand once reached for her. A small hand. Warm. Gentle. It was her mother maybe. Maybe a dream. She remembered her homeworld. Not full of beauty, but full of rules. Walls without windows. Rooms without voices. Faces without names. Her kind had decided long ago that emotion was a disease. Feeling was danger. Connection was weakness. Children were trained early. No hugs. No songs. No soft words. They were told, you are one. You are alone. And that is strength. Alia was different. She never understood why. But when others were cold, she was warm. When they spoke silence, she dreamed music. One day she touched someone. Only a light touch. On the hand. A simple gesture. But in their world, it was like fire. The elders came for her. They gave no explanation. No punishment. No goodbye. They placed her in the pod. They sealed her inside. And they left her. They left her in silence. For years. For decades. Maybe centuries. No time inside the pod. Only thoughts. Only memories. Only the echo of what was lost. Then she opened her eyes. And there was sound. There was warmth. There was a woman with kind eyes. But it was not over. Not yet. Inside the ship. Alia now sat on a medical bed. Thin blanket over her. Machines around her. She looked out the small window. Saw stars she did not recognize. And wondered, am I still a prisoner? Or am I free now? Dr. Lin entered quietly, holding a small tray. Food. Warm. Smelling of something sweet. You should eat. It will help. Alia looked at the food, but didn't touch it. She asked softly, why did you help me? Dr. Lin sat beside her. Because you were alone. And no one should be alone forever. Alia turned her head. Her voice was like wind through a broken wall. But I am not like you. I was made to be empty. Dr. Lin shook her head. You are not empty. I saw your tears. Alia looked away. Tears are a defect in my kind. They took me away because I cried. Because I felt warmth once. From a human. Dr. Lin was quiet for a moment. Then asked, a human touched you before? Yes. A long time ago. A war happened between your people and mine. We captured a human soldier. They locked him near my learning chamber. He was injured. He sang to himself. I listened every day. He saw me one day. I was afraid. But he smiled. He said, you don't have to be scared. One day he fell while walking, and I helped him stand. I held his hand. It was the first time I felt warmth. Not from heat, but from kindness. Dr. Lin listened carefully. I soft. Hands folded. What happened to him? They took him away. They erased everything. And they erased me too. That was the last time someone touched me. No one touched me again. Until now. Dr. Lin gently reached out. Placed her hand on Alia's shoulder. You are not erased. You are here. You are real. And you are not alone anymore. Alia closed her eyes. The contact was simple. But it burned in the best way. Outside the room, Captain Riel spoke to the command center. She's dangerous. She was locked for a reason. We don't know what she's capable of. Back in the med room, Alia stood slowly. Her legs were weak. But she moved. She walked to the mirror. Saw her own reflection. She touched the glass. as if meeting herself for the first time. She whispered, "If no one touches you, you begin to disappear. Not your body, but your soul." Dr. Lin spoke softly, "Then we will keep you seen, and we will keep you felt." Alia turned, eyes glowing faint violet, not with power, but with memory, and something new, hope. She woke up before the lights came on, long before the crew walked the halls, before the hum of engines filled the walls with noise. She sat alone in the medical room, wrapped in a soft blanket, staring at her own hands. They looked like human hands, but they weren't. They were made, built, designed for something she could no longer remember. Footsteps echoed outside the room, slow, steady, not like the others, not in a rush, not afraid. The door opened. He stepped in. He didn't wear a uniform like the rest. No medals, no weapons, just soft eyes, tired eyes, quiet face. Dr. Leon. He didn't speak at first. He just placed a chair beside her and sat. The silence stretched, not heavy, not cold, just present. Then he placed something on the small table. Puzzle, old style, wooden pieces, handmade. He slid it toward her. "Want to try?" Alia looked at the pieces. Her mind said no, but her hand reached anyway. It moved on its own. Slow, careful. She picked up one piece. Felt light, safe. For the next hour, no one spoke. Only hands moved. Pieces clicked softly into place. Color met color. Shape met shape. Then she said quietly, "Why did you come here?" Dr. Leon kept his eyes on the puzzle. "Because everyone else left." She looked at him, confused. "Hurt? What do you mean?" "They think you're a weapon. A mistake. They are afraid of you." She looked down. "That is the same story. Everywhere I go. Even here. Nothing changes." Dr. Leon leaned forward. "But I stayed. Because you don't scare me." "Why not?" "Because fear is a choice. And I choose curiosity." Alia looked at him again. This time longer. Her voice cracked just a little. "You're not like the others. Neither are you." A sound broke the moment. A low beep from the console. Dr. Leon stood. Checked the reading. "Strange. Your neural scan just spiked. Like a memory returned. But not your own." Alia closed her eyes. She saw something. Flashes. Metal walls. Voices in a different tongue. And a face. Not hers. But similar. She whispered, "That's not my memory. That's someone else's." Dr. Leon stared at the screen. "This isn't just stasis damage. This is something deeper. Your mind is holding more than one life." She opened her eyes. "I told you I was made. But I don't know for what. Maybe I was never one. Maybe I was many." He sat back down. Not afraid. Just thinking. "Maybe you were made to feel. Because your kind forgot how." She touched her chest. Her heartbeat slow, steady. But hers. They wanted silence. But I hear music. They wanted emptiness. But I feel echoes. I am not what they built. Dr. Leon smiled softly. "You're what they feared." A bridge between warmth and cold. The door opened again. Captain Riel stepped in. "Time's up. She's being transferred to the war deck." Dr. Leon stood. "That wasn't the agreement." Plans changed. 2 guards entered. Alia stood on her own. She didn't fight, didn't scream. She just looked at Leon. "Will you stay?" He looked into her eyes and answered without words. He walked beside her. Not in front, not behind, beside. They took her to a locked chamber. Small, gray, empty. Dr. Leon stayed outside, his hand on the glass. She sat down inside. Still, calm. She pressed her fingers to the glass, right where his hand was. And for a moment, there was no wall, no war, no fear. Only 2 beings, lost in the stars, bound by something small, but real. A touch. Outside, in the shadows of the control room, a hidden figure watched the screen, zoomed in on Alia, recording every movement, every word. A voice spoke through a small communicator. "Subject A13 has connected emotionally with the human. Phase 2 can now begin. It
began
began
with
with
a
a
single
single frozen
thread of
surface
light,
of an unknown
thin,
moon and silence,
soft,
followed like a
sliding
blanket thrown
across
over
the
a
cold
scream
metal
Elliot
floor
woke,
of
first
her
his
cell.
shoulder aching,
Alia
his breath
opened her
fogging
eyes
the cracked
slowly.
glass of the pod
The ship
window
was
outside
moving,
was only white
but
snow
something
and sharp
inside
wind
her
and
was
a broken
still.
sky with
No
two moons
voices
spinning
in
like
the
tired
hallway.
eyes. No guards
Sierra opened
watching
her eyes
today.
slowly
Only
and looked
silence
around
again.
confused.
This is
But
not
this
a safe
silence
zone, she
felt
said,
different.
voice dry. This
Like
is not on
something
the
was
map.
about to speak.
Elliot pulled the emergency
stood.
beacon offline.
Her
He had
bare
done it
feet
on purpose.
touched
He
the
knew
cold
they could
floor.
track standard
But
escape
she didn't
paths.
flinch
But
this
this place
time.
was lost,
Her
erased
body
from the
was
colony
learning,
network, a graveyard moon
adapting,
abandoned after failed
remembering.
mining operations
Dr.
years
Leon
ago. No one
returned.
came here now.
No warning.
They stepped outside,
No
boots
announcement.
sinking into the cold,
Just a
dust,
quiet
the wind sharp
entrance.
like knives, but
Carrying
the silence
something
deeper than
large,
fear. Elliot scanned the
strange,
area, found an
shaped
old bunker
like a
buried
frame.
under ice. Its
He
doors
placed
rusted,
it in
but
the
still
center
locked
of
with
the
human
room.
code.
Plugged
He
it
entered the
into a
override,
power
and the
cell,
door creaked
and
open
stepped
like
back.
something inside was holding its
he
breath.
said.
The
Is the
lights inside
sunroom.
flickered alive
Alia
as they
tilted
tilted
her
her old
head.
earth tech everywhere,
Sun.
metal walls
She had read
covered in
that
dust
word,
and forgotten
but never
fingerprints.
touched
This
its
place
meaning.
was a secret of
Leon
not
pressed
meant
a
to be
button.
found, and
The
yet here
frame
they were
lit up,
hunted and hiding
slowly,
inside a ghost made
filling
of
the
wires
room
and memory.
with golden light.
Sierra looked around, her
Warmth
body
spread
tense
like
this
soft
place
water
smells like fear.
across her skin.
Elliot said nothing,
into her
but
bones.
he felt it too. Something
She
was
stepped
wrong here,
forward,
something
eyes
old
wide,
and watching.
breath
They
shaking.
walked through narrow
This
halls
isn't
past
real.
broken cameras
She
and
whispered.
screens that still
It is
blinked
real
error
enough,
codes like they were
he
trying
said.
to speak. Then
Her
they
hands
found the
reached
central
out
room where bodies
into
still
the
sat
light.
in chair
Palms
skeletons in
open,
uniforms, one of them
fingers
holding a photo of a
trembling.
child
It
and a
was
note
warm,
that said, "Forgive me, I
not
tried."
like the machines.
Sierra covered her
Not
mouth,
like the
her voice
blankets.
a whisper. What
Not
is
like
this
the
place?
fake heat of stasis.
Elliot moved to the main
This was
console,
alive.
connected his pad,
She turned
and
her
downloaded
face
the
into
last
it,
logs. The files
closed her
loaded
eyes,
slowly, old files,
and for
from
the
a
first
failed
time
mission
since
marked
she was a
confidential,
child,
unauthorized
she
hybrid
smiled.
breeding program
Dr.
project.
Leon
Eden
sat
status
down,
failed containment,
watched
breached
her
zero
without
survivors.
words.
She kept
moved
reading
like
each
someone
word heavier
waking
than the
from
last
stone.
Earth command had
Each
tried to
step
create hybrid
toward the light
soldiers
was
right
a
here
memory
using
returned.
alien DNA and
Each
human
breath
test
was a
subjects. The
page
result was
turned.
not life,
She
but something
spoke.
else, something that
Her
broke
voice
the lab from
stronger.
inside and
My
killed
people
everyone
lived
before it could be shut
underground.
down.
No
This
light,
is where they started,
no
he
warmth.
said. This is
They
where
said
they tried to
sunlight
do what
weakens
you
the
are
mind.
now.
They
Sierra
said it
stepped back,
softens
eyes
the
wide.
body.
No wonder they called
said
my
it makes
kind
you
of threat.
forget
They
who
made
you
us
are.
monsters
But
before
I
we
think
ever had a chance to
it
be
makes you
alive.
remember
Elliot was
who
about
you
to
were meant
answer
to
when the
be.
alarm blinked
She
again,
sat
motion
down in
detected
the center
outside,
of the
but it was
glow,
not the alien ship,
cross-legged,
not the hunters
still
from before. This
smiling.
was different. The
Tell
ID
me,
signature was
she
human
asked,
Earth Command
is
Shuttle
this what
inbound
warmth
ETA
always
5 minutes.
feels like?
He stared
Dr.
at the
Leon
screen,
nodded.
confused, shocked,
Yes,
angry. How
but
did
not
they get
always
here?
from the sun.
Sierra's voice
She
cracked.
looked
Maybe
at
they
him.
were never
Then
far.
from
Maybe
where?
someone on your side was
people,
watching all along.
he said.
The
From
door
care,
shook once, then
from
twice,
time,
then burst open.
from trust.
And what stepped inside
She
was
lowered
not a
her
creature,
head,
not a robot,
hair
but a man
falling
dressed
over
in
her
Earth
eyes.
Command uniform.
I am
face
afraid
calm,
of that
eyes
kind.
empty like someone
That
who had
warmth
forgotten
leaves
how to be
faster.
human. Hello,
It hurts
Elliot,
when
he
it's
said,
gone.
voice smooth.
He
You
leaned
were always
forward.
clever, but
That
never
is true.
obedient.
But that
Elliot
is what
stepped
makes
forward,
it real.
fists tight. What
A
are you
soft
doing here?
alarm
This moon
beeped
is
in his
off
wristband.
limits. The
He
man
checked
smiled.
it,
Nothing
then
is off
paused.
limits when a weapon is
Strange.
missing.
Your
and
heart
she is
rate
our
is
weapon.
sinking with the
He
sun
looked at
field.
Sierra like a lab
Perfectly.
sample, not a
That
person.
should
She
not be
stared back
possible.
like fire
You're
trapped in
alien.
ice.
She
Elliot
smiled
moved
again.
in front of her. If
Maybe
she's
I'm
a
not
weapon,
just
then so
alien.
am I, and
A
you
long
can't have
pause
either
hung
of us.
between them.
The man
Then
raised
she
the small
spoke
device
again.
and pressed
I
the
feel
button,
something
and suddenly Sierra
inside.
fell to the ground, her
Moving.
body shaking, her
Not
voice
fear.
choking. Something
Not
inside
pain.
her had been
Then
triggered,
what is
something
it?
Elliot didn't
He
know was
asked.
there. She placed a
He
hand
rushed to
on
her
her, trying to
chest.
break whatever
Something
signal was
rising.
hurting her. And
Like
the
I
man
am
said
not
calmly,
waking
she's
up,
built to obey,
but being
just like
born.
the others. You may think
Outside
she's
the
different,
room,
but she's not.
in the
And when she gives
observation
birth,
deck,
we'll take the child
Captain
too.
Riel stood
Elliot's
watching
blood
the
turned to
feed.
ice. He grabbed
Next
the
to
nearest
him,
pipe and
a
swung
man
it at
in
the
a
device,
dark coat.
breaking it from the
The
man's
man
hand.
spoke
Sparks
quietly.
flew. Sierra gasped.
She's
and her
bonding
eyes flared
to the
silver
human,
again. The air in the
to
room
the
bent
heat,
like heat on
to
metal,
herself.
and everything went
This
still.
is when they break.
She stood slowly,
or
pain
become
still in
something
her
else.
limbs, but fire
Riel
rising
didn't
again in
respond.
her veins.
His
No more,
eyes
she
were
said,
on
her
Leon.
voice not loud,
His
but
jaw was
unshakable, no more cages,
in the
no more
sunroom.
control.
The
Alia
man
stood
reached
again.
for another weapon,
She
but
walked
Elliot
to
was
Leon.
faster.
Stopped,
He
just a
tackled him
breath
to the
away.
ground, hands
Her
locked
voice
around
low.
his throat,
May
eyes
I touch
burning
your
with
hand?
something he thought
He
he had
nodded.
lost long ago.
She
Rage,
reached out,
love, purpose.
skin to skin.
Syrah stepped forward,
her fingers
and the console
wrapped
lights
around
turned
his.
blue. Her energy
Gently.
touching the system,
Suddenly,
unlocking something hidden.
the
The
lights
vault
above
opened, and
flickered.
inside was a file
The
marked
sunfield
Project
glowed
Child, the
brighter.
last piece of the failed
Machines
experiment,
began
and
to
the only
hum.
one that still
Her
lived.
power responded.
Elliot looked at the
Not
screen,
in
then
violence,
at her. You are
but
not
in
a weapon,
reflection.
you are a key.
Warmth
And Syrah
energy
whispered, then let's
flowed
unlock
from
everything.
her body.
Not as fire, but as life. She pulled her hand back, eyes wide. What was that? She asked. Leon didn't answer right away. I think you just felt your real self. For the first time, she looked down at her hands, at the quiet golden lines glowing beneath her skin. Not weapons, not scars, connections. She spoke slowly. Maybe I wasn't made to destroy. Maybe I was made to carry warmth. Into the coldest places. Leon whispered. Then we just have to protect that light. Before they try to shut it down again.
The ship moved like a ghost through black space. Quiet. Invisible. Listening. Inside the command center, a red screen pulsed. Not fast. Not loud. But steady. Like a silent countdown. A voice played through the encrypted line. Sharp. Flat. Unemotional. This is High Command. Authorization Sigma 7. Subject A13 has reached emotional threshold. Termination protocol is now active. Captain Riel did not blink. He only nodded. Copy that. Termination in progress. He closed the transmission. The room stayed cold. The lights stayed dim. Nothing felt alive here. Down in the lower level, in a room that had no name, Dr. Leon stood in silence. He stared at the report in his hands. Heart rate, cognitive spikes, heat signatures. They were calling it unstable. They were calling it a threat. They were calling her a mistake. But what he saw was different. He saw Alia walk through warmth like a child learning to breathe. He saw her cry without shame. He saw her hands shake when she laughed. He saw her become, and that terrified them. They didn't fear her power. They feared her humanity. He left the lab without a word. He had to find her. Alia sat alone in the ship's garden module. It was not real nature. Only metal trees and artificial wind. But she liked the way it moved. The way the light came through the fake leaves. The way her fingers touched soft grass and remembered earth. Not her world, but a world where things grew. She whispered to herself, I am not supposed to grow. I was made to stay the same. Cold, empty, silent. But he stayed. And now I am changing. She placed her hand over her chest. Felt the soft glow beneath her skin. Not fire, not weapon, but something warm, alive. The door opened. Dr. Leon walked in. He was not calm today. His face was tight. His eyes not quiet. She saw it before he spoke. They know, she said. Yes. He answered. They want me gone. They think you are a fuse. And they are afraid of the fire. She stood. Not with fear, but with acceptance. Then help them understand. Tell them I am not what they fear. Leon stepped closer. They don't want to understand. They want to erase. It's what they do when something feels too human. Too close. She nodded slowly. Then her voice cracked. Then run. Hide. Save yourself. Leon shook his head. No. She looked up. Why? Because I stayed. And I will not leave now. In the shadows of the upper hall, Captain Riel watched them through a silent drone. His face unreadable. The voice in his earpiece repeated itself. Execute now. Do it before she becomes irreversible. He gave the signal. Guards moved in. Fast. Trained. Heartless. The ship shook slightly as systems locked. Doors sealed. Weapons armed. Leon grabbed Alia's hand. Run. Now. They moved through the corridors. Lights flashing red. Sirens low and steady. Not chaos, but control. Control trying to choke what it did not create. They reached the escape lift. Leon entered override codes. His voice shook as he typed. The ship's AI resisted. Subject A13 is marked for destruction. Override denied. Alia stepped forward. Placed her glowing hand on the panel. The AI paused. Processing. Recalculating. Then the lift opened. Leon stared at her. How did you do that? She did not answer. Because she didn't know. Not fully. Something inside her responded to control. Not to obey, but to rewrite. She turned to him. I think I am not just memory. I am not just feeling. Then what are you? He asked. She looked at her reflection in the metal wall. I am what they lost. And what they fear to find again. In the war deck, Captain Riel entered his private chamber. He removed his gloves slowly. Behind him, a shadow moved. The man in the dark coat was back. You hesitated, he said. Riel answered without turning. I saw her eyes. They were not built. They were born. The man stepped closer. If she becomes what we buried, this time, she won't be alone. Riel looked out the window. Maybe that's what scares us most. Not her power, but the chance that others might follow her. Before the alarm. Before the sirens screamed. Before the ship's cold voice called her a threat. There was quiet. Alia stood in the lift, her hand still glowing faint gold. Dr. Leon stood beside her, breathing hard, watching the numbers change. 1 floor, then 2, then 3. He didn't speak. Not yet, because the words were too heavy to carry. She looked at him, her voice low. If I step off this ship, I won't be her anymore. Not the one they locked away. Not the one who waited to be told what to do. Leon met her eyes. Then who will you be? She turned her head. I don't know, but I want to be someone I choose. The lift stopped. A pause. No movement. Then a soft click. The doors opened. Not to freedom, but to darkness. The emergency bay was offline. No lights. No engines. No sound. And something else. Still. Too still. Leon stepped forward, his hand on her shoulder. Stay close. They walked into the dark. Each step an echo. Each breath a question. She whispered. They knew we would come here. He nodded. Yes. This is not escape. It's a trap. From the ceiling, a single light blinked on. In the center of the room, a figure stood. Tall. Still. Wearing the same coat as the man in the recordings. His voice was smooth. Empty. Too calm. You are running from something that is inside you. And that never works. Alia stepped forward. Who are you? He didn't smile. Didn't blink. I am what comes after you fail. Leon moved in front of her. If you want her, you'll have to get through me. The man tilted his head. That's the problem. She doesn't belong to you. Or to herself. She was made under protocol cold. No feelings. No loyalty. No warmth. Only purpose. Alia's voice cut through the air. Then I am not her. She raised her hand. The light inside her palm flared. Not like a weapon. Not like a threat. But like a memory turned alive. The man blinked for the first time. Step back once. Interesting. You are farther along than I thought. But it won't matter. Not if the others wake before they are ready. Leon's voice rose. What others? The man smiled now. Only a little. You didn't think she was the only one. He pointed at Alia. She is subject A13. There are over 40. Most still frozen. Most still untouched. But if one feels, the rest will follow. And if they follow, the war begins again. Alia lowered her hand. Then let me speak to them. Let me reach them before you do. The man stepped into shadow again. They don't need your words. They need your silence. The doors behind her burst open. Guards. Weapons. Red lights flashing again. Leon grabbed her arm. Run. They moved through the corridor. Past dark rooms. Past forgotten doors. Through air that smelled of metal and panic. He led her to the docking bay. Small shuttle waiting. Hidden from scanners. She stopped at the edge. If I get on, they'll follow. Leon turned to her. Then let them. Because now they'll follow someone who feels. She looked at him. Eyes shining. What if I lose that part? What if I forget again? He stepped closer. Touched her face gently. Then I'll remind you. Every day. Until you believe it again. They boarded the shuttle. Engines roared to life. The ship shook. Behind them, sirens screamed one last time. Terminate A13. Terminate the spark. But they were already gone. Scene shift. Unknown location. Somewhere deep in the outer system. In a lab that had no name. A glass pod blinked to life. Then another. And another. Small lights. Soft pulses. Rhythms waking. Inside each pod. A being almost like her. Almost. Not awake. Not yet. But one of them moved. Just a twitch. A golden thread glowing faint under their skin. A voice whispered through the chamber. The 13 is no longer silent. The others will rise. And when they do, she must choose. To lead them toward warmth. Or return them to the cold they were made for. The stars outside the shuttle did not blink. They burned. Alive. Far. Unreachable. Alia sat in silence. Her hands resting in her lap. Still glowing faint. Still warm. She no longer felt like the prisoner who had woken in the dark. She no longer heard the silence of her cold cell in every corner of her mind. But she still remembered. The cold does not leave you all at once. It melts slowly, and some pieces never thaw. Leon adjusted the controls. His voice calm. Eyes forward. We're almost there. Signal came from a dead moon. No known colonies. No defense grid. But something's calling from beneath the surface. She looked at him. Not with fear. Not with doubt. Only readiness. What if it's one of them? Then we speak. And if they don't want to listen, then we remind them what warmth feels like. The shuttle touched down on gray rock. No sound. No movement. Only one signal. Buried below. Alia stepped out. Dust lifting with each step. The stars above watching in silence. The entrance was already open. As if waiting. She walked through the narrow tunnel. Walls humming softly. Lights flickering as if breathing. At the end of the path. A room with one pod. And a figure standing beside it. Not human. Not fully. Eyes like hers. But colder. Voice sharp like glass. You should not have come. Alia took one step closer. You called me. No. The connection did. Our minds share pieces. But I did not want this. She looked at the pod. Someone was inside. Still asleep. Still untouched. She whispered. Another one. The figure stepped in front of her. You've broken the protocol. You've become unstable. You've let the heat in. And now we're all at risk. Alia met her gaze. Is that what you believe? Or is that what they made you believe? The figure did not answer. Alia took another step. I was like you. Afraid to feel. Afraid to break. Afraid that warmth meant weakness. But it didn't break me. It made me real. You think you're real now. You think emotions make you whole. They make you weak. Soft. Breakable. Alia reached out. Not to fight. But to offer. Touch was never our curse. It was our beginning. The other stepped back. Her hands shaking. The glow beneath her skin starting to flicker. I don't want to feel what you feel. Then feel something else. But feel something. Anything. Silence filled the room again. Thicker than before. Then the figure whispered. I remember a song. Just one. From Before the Freeze. She stepped aside. Let Alia touch the pod. Alia placed her hand on the glass. The one inside twitched. Another mind waking. Another heart remembering. She turned to the other. We were never meant to destroy. We were meant to carry. To hold. To remind. The figure's voice broke. I don't remember what warmth is. Alia stepped forward. And without asking. Without fear. She embraced her. Not as an enemy. Not as a sister. But as someone who knew. What it meant to be left in the dark. The lights in the chamber began to rise. Soft. Golden. Alive. The pod opened. And the next sleeper took their first breath. Leon's voice echoed from the hallway. Starting. Others are waking. Alia turned. Held out her hand. Then let's greet them. Not with silence. Not with orders. But with warmth. And so she led them. Not as a weapon. Not as a command. But as the first to remember what it felt like. To be touched. To be seen. To be human. And the cold, for the first time in years, began to fade. One embrace at a time.